So first of all, you need the green, the yellow, and the white. Put a bit of green, a bit of yellow, and a bit of white. And then you can kind of like just create a new color by mixing different variation. Keep the mixture quite small, and then what I normally do is paint the middle in the lightest color, and then you can like kind of make the color smoother, and you want the outside to be darker. So what you do is then just dunk the green directly and then create like an outer bit. The wet, it depends, you can make a watercolor looking piece of work, or if you want it more kind of oil painting, then you keep the paint quite thick. But can you see when you have the edges, if you just really wet your brush and dunk it in the light color, you can like almost blend it. So don't worry about the edge too much as well, because we'll do that. But when you get to, what I would say, it's paint all the way to the edge of your pencil mark. We'll do the line at the end, but by then all of this will be dry, and then you can just add it on top. And then kiwi is the exact kind of same technique. It's actually pretty much the same color, but if you want more green and more white, you can add a bit more to your mixture. And again, leave the sunshine, the actual sun in the middle, leave it blank, because we'll paint that white. But then you can start from this inner circle, make the outside into like a direct green, so without really mixing it, and then you can just blend the two colors together in the middle. The cucumber, it's less yellow and just mainly white and green. So if you kind of study the actual one, you want to paint a lot of white in the center, like quite a lot of white, and then mix the green and white. But it's quite a light color. Okay, we'll just do a base layer, like a light green, and let it dry before we come back to it. So don't worry too much about this. You just want a base color. So the other key trick is let one layer dry before you work on the next, because like the avocado, before it dries, if you add in the brown, the whole thing just kind of smudged out. Then the lime, what you would do is mix a bit more yellow into the mixture. So you create like a lime green. Again, it's just these three colors blending together. But this one, you want to keep it quite thick. So can you see the star here? You're using your brush stroke quite expressive, and then you're just gonna like fan it out from the middle. So that's how you create these kind of dry brush stroke. You just press it and then mix kind of different tones, add a bit of yellow, add a bit of white. Sometimes even just dunk directly into the pot. And you can just keep it dry, and then just let your brush flow. So you could skip the bit on the palette, because when you do that, it blends in naturally anyway. You'll end up with something like that, and don't be afraid of the white space. And then obviously you can kind of brush it in from the outside as well, back in the center. But I wouldn't overdo it. Just do like almost like a base layer. And then your kiwi shading, I would clean the brush first, because the black is so strong. Keep cleaning the brush, otherwise it just becomes filthy. And I would dunk a little bit so wet the brush, dunk the brown with the green you had previously if it hasn't dried out, but keep this quite wet. So what you want to do on the kiwi, kind of fan it out to have that, you know, create these little darker bits. I've left the middle white. You always want to fan it out, but have your brush quite wet. And if it's too dark, just like use a tissue to like damp it, and then it should lighten the color. So on the cucumber as well, while your brush is a little bit brown, wet it again, and then you know the Y, you can draw kind of a V, and then just damp it a little bit so the color is not too strong. So basically you just draw 3 V's along the Y like that. And then you can like just smudge it out from the center. Okay, so for the lime, you will now draw the white here on the, can you see the segments? And then redraw that crisscross you did earlier. So you draw the segments, and then you want to do the same kind of fanning, the segment, and then a circle around it. So you can see here it's got the circle. So again, your paintbrush probably needs to be quite dry to cover, for the white to cover up the green. And don't worry about needing to make it too perfect. It needs to be quite imperfect to look real. Want to do any kind of extra highlights that you could see on here, then it's the same, you know, the fanning out, where you could just do a little bit, a couple dots of fanning out. But just keep the brush dry and use the Remain paint on the brush. The lemon and the orange actually is the same as this. So for this orange, then you would be using the orange and the yellow and the white instead of the green. I'm going to show you the papaya because it's a mutual thing for all the other colors. So if you want to mix it to like that papaya color, so it's red or orange, yellow and white mixed. And how light or dark depends on how ripe your papaya is. So you could blend it, and then until you find your papaya color, then you just paint the base. And again, it's same as the other one. You want it like lighter in the middle, and then you want it darker. So to make it darker, you just add in the red. And you can see it's okay if like your brush is imperfect and you leave like, you didn't mix the mixture properly, and then you get hints of yellows and white in random places. And that's actually quite cool as well. And then you could dunk it into your white to just add hints of like random highlights. And then let your brush kind of flow. Can you see? Like they're just really random white. This one looks quite nice if the brush is very dry actually. I would say anything you want texture on, anything that you want it to dry really quickly, like the citrus and when it's just one thing, anything that you want to look smooth. For example, when we get to the skin, then you want, or like the dark color, like the seed, then you want it quite wet. The skin color, you can probably color match on from here. The orange is orange and lemon is pretty standard. It's the orange and the yellow. And then the lime is the same, just a standard green. But the And the avocado and the melon are all green, so you can actually just like look at these colors and like match it to your one. The only one that is a bit tricky is the avocado and the kiwi again. You are like the hardest one to paint. So you wanna mix that dirty brown with the green. You want quite a lot of paint with the smallest brush you have and very, very wet. So the brush would like flow, because you can actually test it. You can test it on a bit of paper, do that, and then see how it runs. So you want quite a lot of the brown, and then you just draw a very fine line on the outside. Oh, mine's very brown. Sorry. So you want to do the outside as thin as you can. I would say try to do it as smooth as possible. And again, if you have, you can see that your brush, when it's wet, it just flows quite nicely. And if you struggle to get the line, like you could see these ones are super thin, but what you can do, if you can't, is draw. So here you can see I've done like a boo-boo with a really thick line, but then you can mix that green. I'll just use a little green now. When it's dry, to use the edge of the brush to cut. So can you see now suddenly my line is much thinner. And then the lime, I'll test that on the lime. So now get a very thin green line along the outside of the lime. All the way around. Okay, so you should have like a line outside your white lines, but then the trouble is, like, again, if you can't get it thin enough, what you can do is again really clean the brush and then dunk it in white. So then I can, hoping for it to dry, but then when you go over it, you can make it as thin as you like. So you can see here, I can then suddenly make it, the skin, really thin. Like I said, I would always make sure the layer for each one is dry before you're adding on top. Papaya, the last one, the color is kind of similar to the avocado color, but with a bit more green. It's still that kind of browny color, but with a little bit more green than the avocado. Oh, and the papaya, what you can do is actually mix a tiny bit of yellow in it to warm it up. You're just adding the skin. And like, don't worry, like I said, if it's not perfect. You can see now mine is way greener and yellow than I would like. It kind of looks like a watermelon. But then I would just be like, well, that's what that color, that's what that papaya looks like. So I would clean my brush, because then I'm going to show you the avocado seeds. So you want a fresh spot on your palette, and then you just put a little bit of red. And a bit of green. When you mix it, it kind of turned into this dirty color. Hopefully your avocado is quite dry now. So then you want to leave, can you see there's like a blank empty white spot there? I would get the brush like quite wet and pointy as well, just because it makes it easier to work the fine edges. and then you want to draw on the outside. So kind of redraw that circle, and then leave the top left corner in white. So you're doing almost like this. I don't know, can you see it like that? Add in the white later on once it's dry. And then we'll do the black. So then you have your black, only use like tiny bit. So on your palette, just test it first. Use a tiny dot of black, mix it like with some water. So then you want your brush to be thin, and then you're drawing like a crescent moon on the outside of the avocado. So just like on the bottom right edge, like that. And then you've got like more 3-dimension looking. I'm going to show you the final black bit. So if this is the point of your avocado, if you want to neaten the edge, you can then use your fine brush to like really neaten that shadow. And then the kiwi, like a little black dot going from the center, but you could space them however you like. But this one, you want it quite wet to create these kind of blurry lines. If you just do like a dotted line, but keep it quite imperfect, and then it would let naturally just kind of blend together. Now we move on to watermelon seeds, which are the same. So you're just gonna put black dots in the papaya, so they just look like little circles, basically. I like to do mine quite messy, like that. But I'll show you the detailed version. So the seeds for the watermelon is the same, but for example, if I've drawn, I'm going to make a big one so you can see what I'm doing. So once you've got like a black seed, then you clean your brush, and then you dunk in the white, and then you just do like a dot, and then there you have like a highlight. I would normally wait for the black to dry, but you're just gonna, it might blend into the black. It's not gonna work very well when it's wet. But you basically just wanna dot like maybe just the top right corner for all of them. So then you end up with something like this. So yeah, the watermelon would be a fun one because it's got all the different techniques with the white and the seeds as well. And the black seeds is what makes it pop. And then, so you get your white. And then on the avocado seed, you're just kind of gonna go over the white, but be quite gentle. And then to blend it in, you can either like use your fingers, or and then with that remaining white, you can then paint the middle of the kiwi as well. So this one, to get a sharp shape as well, one of my tips is to keep your brush pointing the outside of the circle, and then that's how you get like a much smoother line. So you always have your brush end pointing the outside. And then for your cucumber, with this same white, you're just going to redraw the Y. So here, it's just a highlight. Can you see? And then you paint the Y, and then you can just wet your brush and then really soften the lines and use maybe like a tissue. Keep it very, very wet, and then just blend it a little bit. And then for the seeds on there, it would just be the white, and then you just put a couple of dots along the little triangles. So it gives it a bit more like light and dark. And also around the curve of the line here, because at the moment they're quite sharp, so it's like cartoon-like. They almost look like little triangles, don't they? You would almost like want some white to just soften it, so that you can round it. And then as you round it, it becomes more real, and then you can start adding shadows. So I would dunk it in the green, redraw it like a little bit darker, and then you've got a more three-dimensional with the shadow. You can keep adding the white highlights. You can add tones of yellows. So like even just the kiwi, the little bit, you can start adding just tiny bit of shadows in the corner here, like there. Can you see? And then it just makes it more real, like a little darker in the white bit, but keep it quite gentle. Otherwise, your kiwi might look like dirty. Yeah, I mean the hardest bit to get real, I would say, is the cucumber seeds, and this bit you just make it dark and do the white technique that I show you. So same as this, but there just try to get the white towards the center